guys, welcome to the Cool Library. I'm Ellen. This video you're watching, as you can tell from the title, is my wrap up of the first quarter of this year for all of the movies that I watched. I'm going to be doing this video a little bit differently than how I've done it in the past. I want to try a new way of presenting to you the movies that I've watched. Basically, I used to film, just me sitting down talking to you about the movies that I watched. But I find myself not really quite remembering a lot of my thoughts on a lot of the movies that I talk about. So instead, what I decided to do is as soon as I'm done watching a movie, I vlogged myself talking about my thoughts on the movie. And so that's how this video is gonna go. If you're not liking it, or if I'm not liking it, we can obviously go back to the original way of doing it, but I just thought this might be a little bit easier for me. However, I know this video is coming very late. This was supposed to come the first weekend of April. It is now the first weekend of May, barely. And that is literally just because of laziness and not really actually having a whole lot of time for editing. But hopefully that will change later on. But for right now, here is the video of all the movies that I watched in this first quarter of the year. Hi guys, just a quick side note because I know in the clip you just saw, I mentioned how this video is gonna go. Basically, after I watch a movie, I'm gonna film myself, yada yada, you heard me say it. But I made a little bit of a boo-boo, and for February and March, I did not do that. So as soon as you see all the clips from January, we will come back here and I will discuss with you all of the movies that I watched in February and March. Alright guys, I have watched my first movie of the year. It was called White Noise. I don't know why today felt like a hat day, maybe because of the rain, but it felt like a hat day, even though I don't like the look of it on me now that I'm seeing it. But White Noise, it's a movie on Netflix. It's weird. I don't know how to explain this movie, but it is weird, and I went into it knowing it was weird. So the weird parts about the movie didn't bug me because I already went in knowing that it was going to be a little strange. But I enjoyed the look of the film. It was very colorful and almost had like a neon aspect to it at times, and I really enjoyed the look. I thought the acting was really good. I think my only two issues with it, or I guess, I don't know if there's more, but I just thought of two right now. It's very slow paced. For a movie as weird as it is, and it's also kind of loosely about the end of the world, it was very slow paced. I ended up having to watch this movie at 1.5 speed because I just needed it to move along. And then also, too, the whole time, I thought the movie was going to, I thought the whole movie was going to be about this one thing, I guess loosely about the end of the world, but then, it was resolved halfway through the movie, and then it was just okay, well, what's the rest of the movie about? And I just didn't really like the whole last half of the movie. I was just kind of oh, okay, this is where we're going with the last half. I don't care about this. So, I don't know. It was fine as a movie, which is why I'm going to be giving it 3 stars. I'm glad I watched it, and I don't think there's anything super horrible about this movie that I really didn't like. It was more just little nitpicky things. It was fine. It was a fine movie. I just don't think I'm going to be watching it again or recommending people to watch it. Alright, I have just gotten home from the movie theater. I saw my next movie, and that was A Man Called Otto, which is based off of a book called A Man Called Ove, which I read a few years ago, and I really enjoyed that book. It made me cry, so obviously the movie has made me cry as well. Thankfully, I was not the only one in the theater who was crying. I think everyone was crying. I heard sniffles and heavy breathing from a lot of people in the theater. But this is pretty much about the grumpy old man that's just always mad about everything and yells at everybody, get off my lawn, that kind of a guy. But you really learn to love him, and you go back and forth between seeing what happened to him throughout his whole life, but essentially the reason why he starts to not so much stop being grumpy, because I don't think he ever stops being a grumpy old man, but he starts letting people in to his life And that's because he's got some new neighbors who are very personable and outgoing. Like, sad, but also beautiful story. I'm giving it 4.5 stars. It's so good. Literally me and the entire theater, like I don't think this has ever happened where all of us, like no one left once the credits started rolling. We all just sat there and just like watched the credits and just like sat in the moment of the ending of that movie. I do want to give some trigger warnings. There are attempted suicide scenes. It's like tragic and sad, but it also has these really like heartfelt moments and even some funny moments. It's truly a beautiful movie and I highly recommend it. Alright, just got back from the theater, watched my next movie, which was Plane. I went into this movie not really expecting much, to be honest, just expecting, an action movie, and it's kind of what I got. I'd say it's more of like a thrilling experience than it is an action movie. So this is about a plane that is flying from Singapore to Hong Kong. Not Hong Kong. Where is it? Tokyo. It's flying to Tokyo. And they have a passenger on board that is a criminal and is being transferred to Tokyo. But while they're on this plane, it gets struck by lightning and it crashes into one of the Jolo Islands, which is kind of being run by separatists and criminals, and so they end up getting taken hostage. The only ones who haven't been taken hostage are the captain, played by Gerard Butler, and the convict who was on the plane, because they went to go look for a radio. But they see their passengers are being taken as hostages, and they have to go on a rescue mission. And that's kind of the plot of the movie. You do go back and forth between the passengers on the plane and like the captain and what they're doing, but also with the, the government and the airline trying to figure out how to get these people off that island. I liked this movie. Okay, I liked it. I didn't think I would love it. It was just supposed to be like, a fun, simple movie, and that kind of is what I got. The reason why I say it's not so much an action movie like I thought it was gonna be is because there is only one scene with hand-to-hand combat, and that's it. The rest is more of just like shootouts, which is fine, but I was expecting a little bit more hand-to-hand fighting combat, and even that one that was there was, I didn't think it was shot very well. I don't know, there were a lot of things with this movie where I just didn't really like the shots, and the CGI isn't that great, but I did actually really enjoy Gerard Butler as Captain Brody. I think Captain Brody really did, it's a really great character. I think they did a good job with this character. Like, you really root for this captain, and you're kind of like proud of him, and for all the risks he's taking, and you're behind him 100%, which I really appreciate. However, I don't think they did a good job with the convict character. I really wanted more backstory with him, and we didn't really get any backstory from him except that he was in the military. And you also don't really get to know the passengers very well, which I think was also like a missed opportunity. But I did really enjoy the journey we went on with this movie. It was a very thrilling experience. I did feel, especially towards the end of the movie, I was like on the edge of my seat. So I did enjoy this movie, but it definitely was lacking in some areas. But I'm giving it, I think, a 3.5 star overall. Good morning. Time to talk about two movies that I watched over the weekend. The first one is Shotgun Wedding. Let me put myself at an angle so I can put the poster somewhere. It's not great, but it was what I needed at the time. I really needed like just a fun rom-com with like action elements. And that was exactly what this is. We had Josh Duhamel and Jennifer Lopez as well. I don't think they really had any chemistry. Also, the writing's a little cheesy, but that's to be expected for a rom-com. And it was also very predictable. But I enjoyed the cast, and I enjoyed the story overall. But with this, we have Josh Duhamel and Jennifer Lopez. They're getting married at their wedding, like the day of their wedding, as they're having a fight and like contemplating maybe not having this wedding. Pirates come and take all the guests hostage, and they're trying to find, the bride and the groom. And it's a And so the bride and the groom see that this is happening and they try and stop it. It's fun, but you have to go in just not expecting, you know, much. But I think overall I'm giving it 3 stars because I did enjoy it. The next movie, which I'm going to put the poster over here because I'm moving to like towards my mirror now, is a fantastic movie. And a movie I really had to like sit with. Like after the movie ended, 20 minutes, I was just sitting there sobbing and just like really thinking. But that is All Quiet on the Western Front. This has been nominated for a Best Picture this year, and it was a movie I really wanted to watch last year, but I just didn't get around to doing it. And so finally got around to watching it. And oh my God, you guys, this is a painful movie. I'm still like just thinking about everything that happened. And there are some scenes that have stayed in my brain and will probably stay in my brain. This is based off of a book about World War I. And we're following mainly our guy Paul, but we also like follow his buddies and like the friends he makes within war, like Kat and Krop and Franz and the other guy's name who is escaping me. Oh, and then the other guy too. But they start off, you know, super pumped and excited to go to war, and then they get to war and yeah, it's not great. This is a very gruesome, hard to watch movie, so please know that going in you're going to see a lot of very difficult deaths. They were all very hard to watch. The one that was the hardest to watch was like not even one of the characters that we've been following, but it was someone that our main guy killed. But it was his death that was just so hard to watch because it was a slow and painful death, and you're just like sitting there watching him like dying, and it's like minutes go by and you're like, he's still dying? He hasn't died yet? It's oh my God. It also is a German movie, another thing to know going in. So it is all in German, so you're gonna have to watch the subtitles. I love subtitles. However, the subtitles would go a little fast sometimes, but you really see the effects of war, and you also see like these men don't actually, like, they know what they're fighting for, but they don't think that what they're fighting for is worth death, and they're seeing that, but yet they have to follow orders because they see what happens when they don't follow orders. But it's just about these like average day men having to follow these commands that these assholes make. And it's a devastating movie, but I liked how, you know, it ended the way that it started, which was really cool. But yeah, it's a 4.5 movie for me. It's fantastic. So far out of the like Best Picture nominees that I've seen, I want this one to win, but there's still 2 more that I want to see. And hopefully I can see them before the Best Picture gets announced. I gotta figure out when that is. Also, something else that happened over the weekend. The Eagles made it to the Super Bowl, which is very exciting. So, I gotta watch the Super Bowl, and I gotta find people to watch it with. Other than that, that's it. Something I forgot to mention about All Quiet on the Western Front is that it is shot immaculately well. This is one of the best cinematography I have seen in a while, and some of like the best looking shots. Like, I kept just like watching the movie and be like, oh my God, that's gorgeous. I want it on a calendar, or like I want it on my wall. Like, a gorgeous shot. Even though this movie's all about like destruction and hardship and death, it truly is a beautiful, beautiful movie that I honestly could watch over and over again. Hello guys, welcome back to this Ellen, who is now ready to talk with you about the February and March movies. I'm a little upset because the whole point of doing the video this way was so you could hear my thoughts on a specific movie, because I get to this point and I just can't quite remember what has happened in these movies, let alone my thoughts on the movies. So I'm going to do my best, and hopefully the next quarter I will do a better job of updating as soon as I finish the movie. But the first movie that I watched in February was Your Place or Mine. I was looking forward to this movie and it ended up just being an okay movie. I love Reese Witherspoon. I don't really have any thoughts or feelings on Ashton Kutcher. But the synopsis for this movie is when best friends and total opposites, Debbie and Peter, swap homes for a week, they get a peek into each other's lives that could open the door to love. I do enjoy friends to lovers romance stories, but this one just felt odd, especially because these two are like never in a scene together. And if they are, it's through a phone call or a video call. Like they're never in the same room together, except I think in the first scene and the last scene. And so because of that, I never feel any chemistry between these two characters, which is what really brought down the movie for me. Overall, it was a fine rom-com in the sense of the world of rom-coms. But I don't think it's one I'd really want to watch again. But overall, I'm giving it 3 stars. The next movie I watched is 80 for Brady. And I watched this just a couple hours before the Super Bowl. I was very excited about the Super Bowl this year because the Eagles are in it. And football is one of those things that I forget how much I actually enjoy it until I'm watching it. This movie, 80 for Brady, I watched it the morning of the Super Bowl, and then as soon as I was done watching this, I went and watched the Super Bowl. So it was a very football day, and this was a great movie to watch before the Super Bowl. It was just like, it really got me in the mood for football. But this movie is about a quartet of elderly best friends decide to live life to the fullest by taking a wild trip to the Super Bowl LI, I'm not sure what number that one is, to see their hero Tom Brady play. This was such a fun movie. Oh my goodness. It's a mediocre movie, but it is still very enjoyable and very fun. And I honestly, Tom Brady had a bigger role within this movie than I thought he would. I thought he would just be a little cameo, but he is sprinkled in throughout the movie, and he does have like a big scene, a big moment. That's kind of like the turning point of this movie. But it was so fun. I absolutely love our 4 leads, and their chemistry with each other is great, and it's just a very fun time. But I did give it 3.5 stars. The last movie that I watched in February is The Banshees of Inisherin. I watched this because it was nominated for Best Picture, and it was one that I was interested in seeing when it was out in theaters, but just never got the chance to see. This was okay. So the synopsis for this movie, it says, 2 lifelong friends find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship with alarming consequences for both of them. The thing is, the synopsis of this film and the plot of this film is incredibly boring. It is so boring. It's just this guy who decides he doesn't want to be friends with this other guy anymore, even though they've been friends for decades, and goes to such extreme lengths that it's literally insane. He goes crazy. Goes to such extreme lengths to make sure that this guy is not his friend anymore and never talks to him again. It's odd. And I just don't understand the point of the movie. So it's just one of those movies where I was like, I did not need to waste my time watching this movie because I gained nothing from watching this movie. But what I will give it is that it looks incredible. It is so well shot, and this landscape and the scenery just looks incredible. There were a lot of times I couldn't understand what was being said. It was one of those movies where I'm like, I think I need subtitles, but the acting is really good in this movie, and I think those were the 2 things that really stood out to me for this movie. Otherwise, I did not need to see this movie. But I've given it 3 stars. All right, now we are on to the movies that I watched in March, and I watched quite a lot of movies in March. I watched a total of 11 movies. But the first movie that I watched was Knock at the Cabin. I just realized you can clearly see the mess that is my room behind me. Ignore all this laundry that is just sitting on the floor. Anyway, so the first movie that I watched was Knock at the Cabin, and I liked it. It's not my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie, but I liked it. Okay, synopsis. While vacationing at a remote cabin, a young girl and her parents are taken hostage by 4 armed strangers who demand the family make an unthinkable choice to avert the apocalypse. With limited access to the outside world, the family must decide what they believe before all is lost. I really enjoyed the cast for this movie. I think Rupert Grint definitely was a standout for me, even though he's barely in the movie. So I was not expecting like that character to come out of him. And then Dave Bautista did great. I thought all of the characters were very interesting, and all the actors I think did a good job with bringing these characters to life. I also enjoyed the concept of the movie. It is very interesting. I wasn't quite sure where the movie was going, how it was going to end, so that kept me invested within the movie. Overall, it was just an okay movie. It's another one where I'm not quite sure what I was supposed to get out of the movie, but it was still enjoyable. So I gave it 3.5 stars. Next movie I watched is We Have a Ghost. I feel like I have an unpopular opinion about this movie, but I really enjoyed this movie. So this one is about Kevin, who finds a ghost named Ernest haunting his new home. He becomes an overnight social media sensation, but when Kevin and Ernest go rogue to investigate the mystery of Ernest's past, they become targets of the CIA. It is a comedy. It is a wild ride. And yes, it is very silly and has very like stupid moments at times, but it's still enjoyable. And by the end, I got so invested. I was up pacing the room, talking to the TV, being like, why are you making this decision? No, don't do that. Like, you know, just I got very into it and very invested in this plot and these characters. I also just have to mention too, Jennifer Coolidge is in this movie along with Shotgun Wedding, which I don't think I mentioned her when I talked about Shotgun Wedding, but she was the best part of Shotgun Wedding. And she was probably the best part of this movie. Like, Jennifer Coolidge can do no wrong this year, and I want to see her in like every movie at this point. But overall, I'm actually giving this movie 4 stars because I liked it. Next movie that I watched was Operation Fortune Rustiguier. Not actually quite sure how to pronounce that, but this is an action spy kind of movie, and I really enjoyed it. I feel like can't really go wrong with Jason Statham. So this movie is about Special Agent Orson Fortune and his team of operatives who recruit one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars to help them on an undercover mission when the sale of a deadly new weapons technology threatens to disrupt the world order. It's very action-packed, very fun. I also am really enjoying Hugh Grant having his villain era, because another movie that I watched that I'll talk about later, Hugh Grant also plays a villain. So I'm just really liking him playing villains. I think he does it very well. But yeah, this was an enjoyable time. I think I'm just gonna talk about these movies very quickly because again, I can't remember all my thoughts on them, but that's all I'm gonna say about this movie. I recommend it. It's a 3.5 star for me, so like I think it had some issues with the writing. But overall, it was still quite enjoyable. Next movie that I watched was kind of a disappointment, and that is At Midnight. Granted, I wasn't expecting to love this movie, but I was at least expecting to enjoy it. This is a rom-com that is on Paramount Plus, and it didn't hit the mark. So basically, this is about Alejandro. His life is disrupted when actress Sophie Wilder stays at his hotel because he is a hotel manager. To their surprise, the two fall for one another, meeting at midnight. And they have this like hate to love romance in a sense. I don't think they really like hated each other, but they definitely had like different assumptions about the other, and then they come to realize, oh, I was wrong about those assumptions, and they fall for each other. The premise is fine. I just don't think the execution was well done. I don't think the writing was very good. I don't think the acting was very good. I think our two main actors did a good job with the acting, but the rest, no. It also wasn't really that funny. The inconsistencies was astounding with this movie. I think overall I gave it 2 stars. It could be lower, but I like to be a little generous, so 2 stars. Next movie was 65. And in this movie, after a catastrophic crash on an unknown planet, pilot Mills quickly discovers he's actually stranded on Earth 65 million years ago. Now, with only one chance at rescue, Mills and the only other survivor, Koa, must make their way across an unknown terrain riddled with dangerous prehistoric creatures in an epic fight to survive. The reason I wanted to watch this, there were a couple reasons. Number one, Adam Driver's in the movie. I'm a fan of Adam Driver. I will watch anything he's in, even if I don't like the movie. And two, it seemed like such an interesting premise in the sense that we have very futuristic sci-fi things, and we're mixing it with dinosaurs in the prehistoric era. So in a sense, it's like future and past collide, and it just sounded interesting, but the trailer also did make it look like it was going to be scary, which it kind of was. I am a baby when it comes to scary movies, so to me this was definitely a scary movie. There were a lot of jump scares. I was not happy about them, but I did enjoy this movie. I think it definitely lacked in a lot of areas, especially I think the writing. I don't know, like just certain things that just didn't quite make sense and felt like they came out of nowhere. But you're not really watching this movie for its plot necessarily, you're just watching it to watch Adam Driver fight dinosaurs, which is why I watched it. But I did actually enjoy the relationship that he had with the other survivor, the like 9-year-old girl, because I like the fact that they both speak a completely different language, and so they have trouble communicating with each other. So then it's like this back and forth of like, do we trust each other? Do we not trust each other? There were also a couple of things that definitely weren't believable. Granted, I understand the whole premise is not believable because he's crash landed on prehistoric Earth. I get it, but within the context of this world, there were just things that didn't quite make sense. I hope I'm making sense, but I still had a fun time watching it, so I'm giving it 3.5 stars. Okay, the next movie I watched was Shazam! Fury of the Gods, the sequel to Shazam, which I very much enjoyed the first Shazam movie. I really liked it. This movie I enjoyed, but I definitely see its flaws. So in this one, we still got Billy Batson and his foster siblings, who transform into superheroes by saying, "Shazam, hello!" They're forced to get back into action and fight the Daughters of Atlas, who they must stop from using a weapon that could destroy the world. This definitely had a lot of issues with its writing, but I think it was still a fun time, and I still cried watching it. But I think they also made a lot of things more dramatic that didn't need to be dramatic, and a lot of things I just didn't believe. But overall, I still had a fun time watching it. It was just an okay movie. So I gave it 3.5 stars. Next, I watched a movie called The Magician's Elephant. This movie is about Peter, who is searching for his long-lost sister when he crosses paths with a fortune teller in the market. His one question: is his sister still alive? The answer, that he must find a mysterious elephant and the magician who will conjure it, sets Peter off on a journey to complete 3 seemingly impossible tasks that will change the face of his town forever. This is a children's animated movie. I was just in the mood for something simple, animated, for kids, so I put this on. I didn't really like it. It was too simple for me. Granted, I know I'm not a kid, but there are still a lot of kids' movies out there that are enjoyable for adults. And this one was just, I don't know, I felt like I've seen this before and it just didn't do anything for me, and I was bored as hell and I just didn't care. But I gave it 2 stars. Next movie is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. So this movie was fun. In this we have a charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers undertake an epic heist to retrieve a lost relic, but things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. I enjoyed it. It was funny. I liked the action, but it was also kind of still a letdown for me. Like, I was really looking forward to this movie, and while, yes, I enjoyed it, I didn't really enjoy it as much as I want it to. I'm also, I think, still just a little mad at the fact that they kept, you know, promoting that Regé-Jean Page is in this movie, which yes, he is, but he's not in it as much as I thought he was going to be, as much as like the marketing made it seem like. Like, I think he's really only in 3 scenes. Granted, they are long scenes, but he's like barely in the movie for me, and I was mainly watching it for him. This is also the other movie that has Hugh Grant in it, and he plays a villain. I found that very fun. Again, he's doing a great job playing villains, and I'm here for it. Overall, I've given this 3.5 stars. Next movie is Prom Pact, a new Disney Plus movie that came out, and I was going into this just being like, just not really expecting much, just a fun teen movie. And I got more invested in it than I thought I would. It's prom season, duh. And high school senior Mandy and her best friend and fellow outsider Ben are surrounded by over-the-top promposals. Mandy is only focused on getting into her dream school, Harvard. But as she starts tutoring basketball all-star Graham, she must reevaluate whether her dream school is worth the cost of everything she believes in. This is one of those movies, it has a very typical storyline. We've seen this storyline many times before, where the brainy girl and the jock guy, they come together for tutoring purposes and they start falling for each other. And they had created such like different assumptions about the other that they didn't realize were the wrong assumptions. And it's not who that person is. So like this plot line has been done so many times, but yet something about this movie just really hooked me. And I was rooting for this romance to happen, even though I knew obviously conflict was coming and I knew it would get resolved. Like, again, this is just a very predictable movie, but I had a great time watching it, so I've given it 3.5 stars. Okay, the next movie I watched was Murder Mystery 2. This movie, it's the sequel to Murder Mystery, which came out in 2019, and I really loved that movie, so I was very excited for this one, and this was a letdown. In the sequel, after starting their own detective agency, Nick and Audrey Spitz land a career-making case when their billionaire pal is kidnapped from his wedding. Yes, so we have Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler together again, solving a mystery. And I do very much enjoy murder mysteries. I think they're fun, especially when they're done in a comedy style. But this was definitely not as good as the first one. This mystery had way too many plot holes. Once like the reveals all came about, which I felt like there were too many reveals that then ended up not being a reveal. I don't know how to explain it. But once the reveals came about, a lot of things didn't make sense. It was like, okay, well now I have more questions, because then that doesn't make sense with what happened in this part of the movie, and it doesn't make sense with what happened in this part of the movie. So there were just a decent amount of plot holes that never got resolved or answered. And I didn't really find it that funny, and it just kind of felt very messy from a writing standpoint. I did, however, very much enjoy Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler's scenes together. Like when it's just the two of them in a scene, I think it's great. Their comedy as well as their vulnerable scenes when maybe they're like fighting with each other or having a little spat, like I think it's great. But the rest of the movie just didn't quite land. So I've given it 3 stars because it was still enjoyable to watch. But overall, it had a lot of issues. And we are here at the last movie to talk about, and that is Tetris. I was very excited for this movie, mainly because I'm so in love with Taron Egerton. It is ridiculous. But I ended up coming out of this movie very much like enjoying it, to a sense where I was like, wow, I actually learned a lot about Tetris that I didn't know before. And it's a very interesting story, and I'm glad that I've learned about this. But basically, in 1988, American video game salesman Hank Rogers discovers the video game Tetris. When he sets out to bring the game to the world, he enters a dangerous web of lies and corruption behind the Iron Curtain. So yes, this movie does take place mostly in Russia, because our main character does have to constantly go to Russia to try and get the rights to Tetris so we can put it out into the world. But then of course there are other video game companies out there that are also trying to get the rights for this game. And it's a very wild ride. I so enjoyed it. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. If you get a chance to watch this, I would please urge you to watch it. But I gave this movie 4 stars. Which reminds me, another movie I want to change the rating to, All Quiet on the Western Front. I don't know what I was thinking giving the movie 4.5 stars. It is a 5-star. So here right now I am making that change. All Quiet on the Western Front is a 5-star movie. And that is it for the movies that I have watched in this first quarter of the year. So here are the movies from my least favorite to my favorite for this first quarter. And on to the next clip where I talk to you about the TV shows that I watched in this first quarter. I've been watching a lot of TV shows lately. It's kind of been my focus because there are just so many amazing TV shows coming out that I've been really excited about. How I rate TV shows, I don't give them a star rating. It's either a dislike, a like, or a love. Now, thankfully, there haven't been any shows that I have disliked that I have watched these first 3 months of the year. I did start watching season 2 of Boy Meets World, but I'm just watching season 2 as I go along with the podcast. So I'm still currently in the middle of season 2 of Boy Meets World. I think I like season 1 better. But I'm not so much watching this show to really like discuss my thoughts on it. I'm just watching this show to get the full experience of the podcast and what the actors say about their experience on the show and what they like and dislike about the show. And so that's mainly for that. But I do like I am preferring season 1 over season 2 for right now. First in the like section is Abbott Elementary season 2. I'm not quite sure if I've completely finished it or if I've only watched up to like a certain point and then there are more episodes that have come out. But to my knowledge, I think I finished season 2. But I'll have to double check on that. It's very funny. I don't have a whole lot to say about this one because it's just like a simple comedy TV show about teachers for an elementary school. But it's just like a fun, silly thing to just binge watch and have a fun time with. That's pretty much it. Another like is You season 4. I have watched part 1 and I'm almost done part 2. I literally just have the finale of part 2 to watch and then we'll have finished the season, and this is a like. I think out of all the seasons, this might be my least favorite. I don't dislike this season. I do enjoy it. There's a lot about this season that I have been liking. I like all of the characters that we have in this season. I like the fact that it's really playing with your mind and playing with Joe's mind in the sense that like there really is something mentally wrong with him. But in the show we follow this guy Joe Goldberg who is a stalker and a murderer, and he becomes super obsessive with certain people. But the show mainly takes place like within his mind in a sense. So like you are constantly hearing his thoughts and hearing how he is justifying all of his actions. And it's very interesting because he comes across as so charming, but because you're in his mind, you're like, no, he's creepy, something's wrong. But in this season, he's got a whole new name, a whole new identity. He's in London. He's kind of found himself in the crowd of all these very rich and very famous, influential people, and they're kind of all assholes. And one by one, they start dying. And in this one, Joe's trying to solve who is killing the rich people. I've loved 1, 2, and 3. 4 as a like, though. I feel like this show is just finding its downhill momentum now, and it doesn't need to be around anymore. I hate saying that. Another like is Lockwood & Co. season 1. I watched this because a friend of mine who has recommended other TV shows to me that I have loved was like, you have to watch this. So I was like, okay, I trust your taste in TV shows. But this one did turn out to be a like instead of a love, which is what I really wanted. But this is paranormal fantasy-esque. We follow these 3 teenagers who can kind of sense ghosts and see ghosts, hear ghosts, and they can defeat them. And we're in a world where ghosts have kind of taken over. I don't want to say taken over, but they've become more real. But these three all have like so many like different personalities, and yet they all mesh well together. And I think I don't know if a second season is coming, but if a second season is coming, I would be willing to watch it just because of the romance aspect of this show. It's very subtle, the romance, but they're really building that slow burn for our two main characters. Yeah, and I will say I didn't see where this show was going. I do think it started off very slow. I think we kind of got to the main part of the story of the show by, I think, third or fourth episode. But before then, it was just kind of like introducing everything, and it just took a lot of time. Otherwise, I enjoyed it. Another like is Daisy Jones and the Six, season 1. I was really hoping to love this because the book is one of my absolute favorite books. I have read it 3 times, given it 5 stars all 3 times. It is a fantastic book. And the show, I knew there were going to be changes. And surprisingly, I did like some of the changes that they brought into the show. But in this, it takes place in the 70s. We follow a band. We follow them from like the formation of the band till all the way till like, you know, they've gotten famous and then they kind of had a falling out. And this whole show is about their relationships with each other and how they fell apart. And it's like filmed almost documentary style. Like there are some like interviews here and there of them like 20 years later talking about what happened in the 70s. And it's very interesting. I loved the cast of this. I think the cast is perfect for this show. For me, I think it just had a couple of writing issues that didn't make me particularly love it. In the books, they're supposed to be this rock band, and I don't think they were a rock band in the show. It felt very much more folk or soft rock. And that was not what I envisioned when I was reading the book. I still enjoyed it though. It was still a fun time. And if they do a second season, I don't know how they would. Now that I think about it. I don't think there's going to be a second season. There shouldn't be. If there is, I don't know what they're going to do. Okay, that is it for my likes. Now we're on to my loves. Okay, this one was a surprise, but National Treasure, Edge of History. I absolutely love the National Treasure franchise. Books, oh my god. Movies 1 and 2. Love them. I've watched them multiple times. So I was very nervous for this TV show. And yes, there are flaws about this show, but I still love this show. I got so invested in the mystery and so invested in these characters' lives and their relationships with each other. And I thought Catherine Zeta-Jones did great as a villain. And they've ended it so like there could be a second season. So I hope there is a second season. And I was really also loving Justin Bartha's appearance in the show. I think he was in 2 episodes and loved him. I mean, Riley Poole was my favorite character in the National Treasure movies. So that's all I care about. But I do hope there is a second season because I love these types of shows that just have mysteries tied into them. So this was a very fun time. I enjoyed it a lot. Another love is Shadow and Bone, season 2. I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. I loved the book series. I loved season 1, and I really loved what they've done with season 2, especially with the way that they ended it. A lot of characters have different endings than they did in the books. So I'm curious as to where that takes them with season 3, if there is a season 3. I hope it's announced that there's a season 3, because it looks like season 3 is going to be following more the King of Scars duology storyline. But I loved all of our new characters because, okay, when I was reading the books, I was a Nikolai girly, okay? Nikolai was my choice, and he is still my choice for the TV show. I'm so in love with Nikolai. I love every single character. I think they're all really hot, and I think they all have great chemistry with each other. I also love Tolia and Tamar. Honestly, I like TV show Tolia Tamar more than book Tolia and Tamar. And then Wylan too. Oh my god, Wylan's one of my favorite characters in the Six of Crows series. And very happy to see him. I do think they rushed him and Jesper's relationship a lot in this show, that it almost kind of felt unnatural, but it did not take away from my enjoyment of the show, and I oh, I just love how they're like mixing in all the different series within this world together. Don't have much else to say. Oh no, I do have one other thing to say. But it's gonna be like a spoiler for the show. How do I say it so it's not a spoiler? Basically, there is a character who died this season, and that was to be expected, but at the same time, I've really grown to like his character. I think he's a very, I just said it's a he, but he's a very interesting character, and I hope they could find some way to bring him back for season 3. Another one I loved is Secrets of Sulphur Springs season 3. I'm obsessed with children's television shows, and this is a fantastic one. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on this, and it is about, oh my god, at this point season 3 is like way far away from season 1. Okay, so this family has moved into this house. It's been abandoned, it's haunted, and they move in to try and turn it into a bed and breakfast, but you know, creepy things are happening. And we find out that there is some time travel involved with this house. There's a little area of the house where you can travel in time. And so 2 of our main kids end up traveling to the 90s. That is what happens in the first season. But this show, it's got time travel, mysteries, romance. Am I here for the children's having a romance with each other? Yes, I am. I am. Especially because with this season, we got a lot more of that. So like, it's not just them both crushing on each other and not letting the other one know about it. They now know, and it's great. Main 2 characters are finally together, and it's amazing. This show also has incredible cliffhangers at the end of seasons, so I need Disney to speed up production on season 4 if you're gonna have a season 4, because I need it now. Oh, and also there's paranormal. There are actually ghosts too within this show. So it's got a lot of things that I love in shows. Is the writing not great? Obviously. Is the acting not great? Obviously. But it's a fun time. All right, and then the last TV show that I want to talk to you about that I've loved is a show that I was not planning on watching, but I was just like scrolling through Netflix and I saw a trailer for it and I was like, you know what, let me just give it a try. Binged it within one day, and that is The Night Agent. We've got someone who works in the White House, I think for the CIA or FBI or something, and he just answers phones, but he answers a phone that like it doesn't normally ring, and he helps save this girl, and now they're involved in this conspiracy and they're trying to find out the truth behind all the lies that are happening, and then in the meantime they're also having a romance. It's action romance TV show, and I'm really into action romances right now, so I just found out too that this is getting a second season, which I'm very excited for. I don't know what they're going to do with the second season, but I'm excited. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for sticking around all the way to this point, the end. I will put a link down below of my book wrap up for the first quarter of the year, because I did the same thing for my books as well. Yeah, and that's it. I will see you guys later with more videos. Bye.